Welcome back, everybody. Well, we have a small but select crowd in the room here. A small but select crowd for this Q&A panel discussion with Thomas. As you'll have heard before the break, unfortunately, for Paul Kartoivels, it's something like 2 a.m. in the morning. So I think we'll forgive him if he doesn't stay up and join us for this Q&A. But welcome to the people in the room here in Melbourne. Welcome to those people online. I'm pleased to say that I can now access the chat online. So if anybody online has any questions or comments to make during the half-hour discussion, please just put them into the chat and I'll pick them up here and put them to Thomas or as appropriate. Thomas, just before, he isn't here, but we were discussing over coffee, we were reflecting on Paul Kartoivels' presentation. And I don't know if people in the room agree, Paul Kartoivels is such a passionate guy, such a likable guy. I don't know if that came across for you on the screen. I think more than anyone I've ever met on a webinar on Zoom, I first interviewed Paul in January or February, sometime like that. We had to do it 3 times over 2 different months because he was dissatisfied with it. But I couldn't stop him talking. You know, he's such a passionate guy. So I don't know how that came across, but he's one of the most likable people I've met on Zoom ever, I think. But, you know, he was making the point about how fast-moving legislation is in Brussels. And I know it's a point that you referred to as well. Thomas, so how do you reflect on what Paul said there?
Yeah, it's true that legislation in Brussels, but also in Denmark, is moving really fast. And as I see it, it's definitely crucial for decarbonizing not just the cement industry, but the hard-to-abate industry in general, and society more broadly. I mean, just before, I live down here, there was a political decision in Denmark with a national CO2 tax on top of the CO2 tax in the European Union. I think that Denmark might be the first nation in the world, actually, with a general CO2 tax on all emissions. So that is one example of how legislation is actually impacting our industry a lot. If we're looking at European level, I mean, right now they are revising the CO2 tax system as it is today, the emission trade system. They are revising that. It will probably be broader, meaning including more sectors than just industry and aviation as it is today, and they will also they will set higher targets, meaning that the CO2 allowances which we have to buy if we exceed a defined benchmark, it will be more expensive to emit more than benchmark, and so this is some of the things that is being regulated as we speak. The CO2 allowance system in EU is also going to be changed in another manner. A new initiative called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, a very long name, but basically it's a matter of saying that if you import, say, cement produced outside EU, then you will actually have to be penalized, or you will have to pay the same CO2 tax as products produced within EU. So you can say that the emission trade system will actually be expanded also to include imported products. And the aim of this regulation is, of course, to CO2 tax products coming into the EU from outside, but it's also a matter of incentivizing cement production or aluminium production or whatever outside EU. So yeah, legislation is really essential, and a lot of things is happening these years in particular in Denmark and in EU.
So, and you know, the fast-moving pace of legislation is really putting the pressure onto you, isn't it? I mean, has this been one of the factors that has led you to the 73% commitment by 2030? Are you trying to keep ahead of, or are you trying to be seen to do the right thing before they force you to do the right thing? I mean, a cynic might suggest that you're talking a good game, but you know, you don't necessarily mean what you say.
Yeah, no, but I mean, we need to be a part of the solution. I mean, it's impossible for us to have a business going onwards if we don't reflect what is going on in society. So in that case, you can say that I mean, there's not much of a choice in it actually.
Yeah.
So and I guess that is part of the regulation. The thing is here is to make a regulation which doesn't compromise the possibility to compete, because otherwise we would just have CO2 leakage to producers in countries with less regulation, and we shouldn't have that. So we are definitely not against legislation, not at all. It should be, but it should be made in a smart way, so we don't export the problem, so to speak. We have done that before. I mean, with producing in other countries, we shouldn't do that now. I mean, we should take care of our own emissions. Yeah.
And it clearly sounds like the border scheme that you refer to, if I might use the shorter title, is exactly to create that level playing field,
Exactly.
no matter where.
I mean, the level playing field is crucial, and unfortunately, it's not possible. At least not for the time being, to have a global CO2 tax. That would definitely solve the problem, but I don't think that we can have agreement on that on a global scale. But we have agreed upon it within the EU and with the border scheme. We will include producers outside the EU, so hopefully that can have a positive impact. Yeah.
I'm going to keep on chatting up here, but if there are questions in the audience, stick your hand up. Yeah. A question from in the front here. Sorry, there is a microphone. If you just wait a second, it helps for the people online. Apart from anything else, we can hear you fine.
Yes,
but,
my name is Jacqueline Kramer. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm sharing the concrete agreement in the Netherlands, and we aim for an ambition of climate neutral being in 2030, based on more innovations than you mentioned, Thomas. We are not that much in favor of CCS if there are possibilities to change the material side of the issue. And you focus very much on cement. We do a lot of work on geopolymers, on volcanic ash, on combination with calcinite clay, and all kinds of new innovations. Being at a research conference, I thought, are there not more options for you to find solutions at source instead of finding a solution at the end of the pipe?
Definitely. I would say that CCS is actually the last solution to choose, because it's expensive and it should be used only for unavoidable emissions. So that is how we look at it. So I mean, product development is definitely key to us. In my presentation, I talked about our new cement type, FutureCem, with a 30% reduction. I also spoke about this new research project with aiming for a 50% reduction in the cement. So that is examples of innovation. I also spoke about the need to use cement in a smarter way in concrete and in building solutions, collaborating with the value chain. That's another path forward. So I agree that CCS shouldn't be the first choice, it should be the last choice. And before we reach at that point, we should have done what is else possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. We have, well, Paul referred to also, he said, look, part of the problems of fast changing regulation is that it's hard for, it's quite important that research keeps up. and in his view, in some areas of research associated with the European Union, the legislation is moving faster than the research. So I mean, I wonder, Jacqueline, whether the part of the issue here is whether researchers understood how imperative this is, and whether there really is enough research and effort being put into research in this area. You're clearly of the view that there's plenty to go at. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I thought you'd kept the mic. Yeah.
I'm sure that we should do more research on source-oriented solutions. Yeah. And the work I'm doing, chairing this multi-stakeholder platform, is to really advance by taking the front runners of innovations as a source of inspiration for the rest of the concrete sector. And that's an approach which is new to do and implement, but the Netherlands already has made a reduction of CO2 of 50% due to substituting cement by geopolymers. So, and now we want to advance even further. So I really like to make a plea to, for all the researchers that are listening, look at what is possible at source to avoid that we still have to implement all kinds of end-of-pipe solutions, which are nowadays necessary, as Thomas says. But if we really take an effort to go to other solutions which are more sustainable, it would be my preference.
And I think you'd echo that, wouldn't you? You're already funding and participating in research programs. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, if there were interesting research programs around on issues like geopolymers, other additives, we heard from the Graphene Institute yesterday about some of the potential they think they see for graphene in concrete. What you'd want to talk to those researchers, wouldn't you?
Oh, definitely, and we are continuously being approached by researchers and innovators with new products, and we are keeping up an intense dialogue with them. What is important, though, is that many of those products that we are familiar with got few application possibilities. And I mentioned with our product FutureCem, the thing is that it got the same properties as the normal cement, and with the demands, I mean, in concrete construction, I mean, you have to live up to a very high level of quality, and not all new products can actually reach that level. So we should look into new products, but we should also ensure that they got the right properties. Otherwise, we would risk building buildings which will fall apart or with a short lifespan. So really, we should make sure that we don't jump on the wrong wagon, so to speak, too early, using the wrong materials. So, but yes, and we do participate in a lot of research projects, both nationally and internationally, and we participate in a lot of different networks. And I'm working very close together with our R&D director on group level. So this is of great interest and need for us to continuously work with innovation. Yes.
And I mean, I don't suppose you know off the top of your head, what's the group R&D director's budget for research?
I haven't got it. No. but it's a huge priority. Let's say that. Yeah.
I was going to make a second point. So Jacqueline referred to geopolymers. Is that an area that you've looked at with your products?
Yeah, we did look into that, and I mean, as far as we know, I mean, the properties of the product is simply not up to standard. It can be used for some applications, but not all. So we are primarily looking at products which can actually be replace conventional cement. That is our aim. Because in that case, we can substitute all the cement with new cement types. So that's what we are aiming at.
I'm guessing some of the Dutch research has sort of challenged that and has identified products which do indeed meet the performance standards.
Yes, and that's also another point, of course, that we have standards, and we notice that the present standards don't allow innovations that have a lower percentage of cement than 20%, which is a problem if you have an alternative with a lower cement fraction. And now we have introduced, still in development, but a new way of assessing the quality of cement or concrete by performance-based methods. So not on the standard, but on the performance. And that's also a new development. It's a transition, and I'm not here to criticize, but I'm here to, dwell upon all the different aspects of a transition to a sustainable concrete sector. That's not only the technical side of it, also the legal side. It's also about working together. So it is a real, joint effort. And that is my role as an intermediary, to help this sector to move in an integrated manner.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good point looking into the performance instead of designing from standards. But as it is today, that's the normal path. Actually, we're looking into standards for how to build. I mentioned the Sustainable Concrete Initiative in Denmark. One of the things that they are doing there is actually to look into the standards for how to build in concrete, I mean, with the aim of actually minimizing the need for cement in concrete constructions, because in some cases there's definitely too much cement in the concrete construction simply due to the standards, and that doesn't make sense. So having methods to look into the performance and actually thereby minimizing the amount of cement in concrete, that's definitely a good path forward. Yeah.
And performance-based standards are the sort of holy grail or the target for so many different aspects of our sector, of course. And there are some challenges with that approach, as well as perhaps was shown by the Grenfell Tower fire disaster in London. I was very struck by your product development cycle. I mean, 10 years plus for FutureSem. So, I mean, if a new concept came along today, a 10-year development innovation cycle to get it to a commercial application is well outside your 2030 target. So you must have some other stuff in the pipeline.
Oh yeah, and well, I mean, in this case, it was 10 years. We got other products, and hopefully they can be much quicker on the market than with FutureSem. Yeah, but I mean, the criteria or the demands for the quality of the cement is extremely high. So first of all, we have to do a lot of testing. Afterwards, we need to be accepted in the standards. And after that, we can actually put it on the market. So there are several steps in developing new cement types. First of all, we have to make the innovation, and then we have to test and demonstrate real life, and then we have to document. I mean that we live up to the given criteria and standards to be approved in the standards, and then we can bring it to the market. And it's simply a long and slow process in any cases, yeah. But we're looking into solutions which hopefully can get on the market much quicker.
To what extent do you collaborate with other cement producers? So, for example, in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, of course, some information is critical to competition. But we do we do participate in various forums and innovation networks together with other cement producers. We do that in the European cement organization called Semburo. We do that in the Global Cement and Concrete Association. We do that in research networks, in Uvandi and other networks. So we're very active there, also together with other cement producers.
And is it those networks that you need to lobby Brussels over performance-based standards, for example, or lowering the thresholds that Jacqueline referred to?
I mean, if we're talking on an EU level, yes, definitely. That should go through some of those organizations, definitely. Yeah. But we are also working on national level to change the regulation, and we are pushing for more sustainable criteria. Actually, we were pushing for a new building code in Denmark with CO2 demands. And we actually succeeded. So starting from next year, there will be thresholds for CO2 per square meter. And I think I haven't seen that in other building regulations around the world. So I think that we are in the front row of regulating constructions. We are also looking into demands on infrastructure. A lot of concrete is being used there. So having demands in the tenders for infrastructure, we see that as essential as well. I mean, the whole public procurement, I mean, needs to be in place. And as it is right now, there's no CO2 demands in public procurement when it comes to buildings and when it comes to infrastructure. So we are definitely pushing for that as well. So you can say that we talked about legislation earlier, and there's definitely a push there, but we also need to see a market pull, and that's where public procurement and sustainable certifications, building codes, and so forth can really make a market pull. We need to see that as well. So both things is needed, push and pull.
And you're not too worried that by imposing those sorts of standards that will encourage designers and the industry to look towards other materials?
Oh, that will probably be one of the solutions. Not only in Denmark, but in other countries. I mean, a lot of construction companies, architects, engineers, they are looking at wood or other bio-based materials. So I think that we will see a much more diverse construction business going onwards. I think that we will see a lot of hybrids actually. So that will be one of the solutions. We will see much more. You can say that building a wooden construction, you still need a foundation, for example. It could be that, I mean, if you are making a high-rise in wood, you need to have some stabilizing elements going further up. So, so I think that we will see a lot of hybrids.
Good answer. Online people, I'm still looking for some questions from you online. No one's yet put that in the chat, but I can see that Cam at the back has got a question. So do you think, could we get a microphone to that table over there? Thank you. Just whilst walking that over, I want to talk to you in a minute about the issues about collaboration in the value chain and you know, collaboration for innovation in the whole value chain. But I'm sure Cam's got a much more interesting question than that.
Thank you, Don. Campbell Middleton from University of Cambridge. Just 2 points. One, I'd like to support and reinforce the comments just made from a colleague from Holland. I think it's really important that we focus on the fundamentals and not use carbon capture and storage. We've got to get back to the original. We may as well be doing what many companies are doing and sequester and plant lots of trees. It should be the end result if we get back to the fundamentals. And the other point that was made was this fundamental challenge of the codes at the moment restrict innovation, as she said, by limiting the amount of cement. And there's been some really interesting work by Karen Schrivener in Switzerland demonstrating that we can get substantially enhanced performance with cement replacements alternatives that will match the requirements today, but don't comply with the current codes. So fundamental need is to change the codes to reflect what you said, Don, and be performance-based, not with these arbitrarily prescribed limitations and minimum percentages that are derived from past practice. So that's the first point. But the second point that I wanted to ask was, you referred in your talk, Thomas, to that you couldn't use electrically driven or the furnaces to get the temperatures you require, and thus you're relying on fossil fuels or moving forward to alternatives there. Could you explain that a little bit more? I thought that there are initiatives around the world that are looking at the ability to use totally sustainable or renewable fuels in that process, which have been quite effective. And I know very recently there was an announcement in Cambridge where one of the sustainable groups had patented some net zero carbon cement, which you can see on the web, which is looking at it in a holistic way. So I'd be interested in your comments on that.
Yeah. Well, once again, I also totally agree. We should look firstly at the fundamentals, and CCS should be the last thing that we focus on. But if we still will need to produce Portland-based, limestone-based cement, we will have process emissions, and if we should eliminate those emissions, we should look into CCS, but it should be the last thing that we look at, not the first thing. You referred to Karen Scrivener. I'm very much familiar with her work, and actually she is also researching into the use of calcined clay, just as we are with our FutureSem. So yes, we should definitely look into other binder types. So that is one of the things that we are looking at as well, very much in line with the work of Karen. And then about the fuels. I didn't say that we needed fossil fuels. I was just saying that we need fuels, and those fuels that could be hydrogen, it could be biogas, it could be biomass. My point was simply that it's not possible to electrify the production due to the high temperatures. We have research into this, and there has been some studies and demonstrations into working with electricity in cement production, but there's nothing scalable at the time being. It's on a very low TRL as it is right now. So hopefully I clarified a bit. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm sure you'll keep an eye on those emerging technologies, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
look to prioritize those if they look promising.
Exactly. I mean, there was a huge project going on in Sweden involving Heidelberg, one of the biggest cement producers in the world, and I mean, they also look into CCS, meaning that the technology that they were developing in Sweden simply is not ready to be used for the time being. They also, I mean, look into both the fundamentals and CCS. I mean, the project that they have been working on hasn't reached a significantly high TRL, well, I mean, short term at least. Yeah.
I'm glad Cam mentioned Karen Scrivener. I was at a workshop with her in Lausanne a couple of months back under the auspices of something called the Globe Consensus, and CIB is a signature to the Globe Consensus, which is a manifesto put together by global academics around addressing CO2 emissions in the built environment. And that workshop, as I think I said to you earlier, that workshop led by Michael Havro-Faber, with Karen Scrivener, was very much actually seeing cement as the big issue to be addressed. And they reached a similar conclusion, to be fair, to something that you said in your presentation. So I'd like to ask you a little bit more about that. And that's this issue about the whole value chain collaborating to make a difference. I mean, where have you particularly seen opportunities? Which parts of the process, of the value process, do you think need to be more engaged to understand the opportunities for using less cement or to specifying better standards and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that collaboration in the value chain just is about using less cement. I mean, it's a matter of obtaining more sustainable solutions. And I mean, the value chain in the construction sector is very particular, you can say. And the room for possibilities fast closes down, actually. So one, I mean, first, I mean, the construction client makes a program, and already their decision has been made. Then, I mean, there's been a design. Then further possibilities has been closed down. Then you're making actually the actual project, and then you have more or less defined the whole project without involving the contractor, without involving the supplier. And basically you have to have much more interaction at an early stage with early involvement of the contractor and with the supplier as well. And as we see it, we are simply not in play until way too late. And we can actually bring in knowledge and know-how, which should be part of the very early project, part of the very early phases in the construction. And basically that's what I'm talking about, is that we should have another way of collaborating. And it is now, I mean, it is a value chain, meaning that there's something going on in a very specific line of work, and we should collaborate differently and much more intensively on early stages, involving more partners.
So, I mean, the mantra of early involvement and collaboration, and yesterday there was a discussion on this stage about alliancing, for example. So this is a plea from the cement manufacturer to be engaged much earlier in the design process in order to be able to influence that design and the specifications that follow from it.
Well, definitely. And when I'm talking with all other producers, it's more or less the same thing. I mean, they got so much knowledge and know-how which can actually be used in early stages, and we should get that into play.
And have you ever experienced being asked to get involved at that early design stage?
I mean, it do happens from time to time, but often it's on our initiatives actually. But I didn't mention a current innovation project aiming at 5 kilos of CO2 per square meter. It's going to be extremely sustainable, and we have been involved in the whole process actually. So this is of course a development project, but our competences has gone into play at a very early stage there. And that is how that we can actually, I mean, we can make innovation together with the other partners in the value chain, and thereby create much more sustainable solutions.
And there's nothing wrong with people being, oh no, sorry, you've obviously been proactive in that example and made people aware that you have value to add and, you know, asked, as it were, to be involved at an early stage. What are the other barriers, though? Why are you not being asked to get involved at an early stage?
Well, I mean, maybe, I mean, people are not aware of it. Maybe it's just before they work default as they normally do. But in general, I think it's also, I mean, in the value chain, you often see, I mean, the links between the different parties in the value chain. I mean, there's often like conflicts about responsibility and insurances and so forth, who will take the risk. And we have to open up another way of working together and minimizing the focus on risks and closed responsibilities. So we need to have some kind of shared responsibility in order to find the best solutions. And therefore, this is a general plea actually to find new methods of collaborating.
Which personally, I don't mind that as the sort of finishing line for this session. There's no more questions online. Are there any other final comments from the floor in the room here? No, in which case I think we'll close the session there. Thank you very much indeed for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Particularly thank you to you, Thomas, for coming all the way from Denmark. And I'm very impressed how bright-eyed and bushy-tailed you've been. You've had a lot to share with us. I'm very impressed by the forward-looking attitudes that you demonstrate. And I hope that CIB can help you support in helping you access more new ideas, more researchers from different parts of the world with different perspectives to bring, such as Jacqueline mentioned. And together, in the new ways of collaborating, you'll be able to achieve the targets you've set out and go far beyond that. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you a lot for inviting me and having me here.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.